Hello there, and welcome to Cinephiles. This is our first B-Sides episode, and with me, as always, is the big dog to my Big John, Big Match John, the head of the table to my 16-time world champion. How are you doing, Mike Andronica?
I'm doing pretty good. Went to Vegas and got this fancy John Cena hat. Took a few other things back with me too. But very excited to talk about our SummerSlam experience and all the wonderful things we did in beautiful Las Vegas.
Yes, that is right, folks. We actually went to Las Vegas, and this is not going to be your average episode of Cinephiles, because this time his performance wasn't, well, it was on camera for some people. You can stream it now if you'd like.
It
But
was a performance. You could have seen it in theaters.
yes,
They
people actually do this. Um, I think Jordan, that guy Jordan I know, who is a nice dude. Um, he, I believe, went to a theater to see it. More power to him. But we are here as always to talk about the cinema. Well, no, we're here just actually to talk about Las Vegas and pro wrestling. The cinematic career of John Cena is being put on hold until next weekend. I
Yeah,
believe.
we did, we did watch John Cena perform, and we will be evaluating
Oh yeah,
that.
it
But yeah,
fits
this is
into the
definitely,
cadence.
yeah, this will very much be a chill, kind of laid back recap of everything we did last weekend, pretty much.
If you are excited, though, for another episode about John Cena's movie and acting career, I believe Saturday at around noon Eastern, we will be joined by Lil Scoops herself, Caitlin McGarry, who will be joining us to talk about Vacation Friends, which you can watch on Hulu right now. I think I'm watching it tonight um, because because John Cena had another movie in the tank this year. He had 3 movies in 1 year, very productive year.
It's
Uh,
been the summer of Cena is a real thing.
it just barely in WWE, really.
It
Um,
it's not just to
okay, Mike, you're sounding a little weird there for a second. Can you talk again?
yeah. You
You're
hear me
better
now?
now. You're better now.
Having some technical issues as we do sometimes.
Um,
The internet sometimes it slows down.
yeah, it's a thing. But yeah, today we are a travel and wrestling podcast. What was it like to sit next to me on a flight, Mike? How terrible was it?
It wasn't terrible at all. I mean, I didn't. It was totally chill, totally fun. I feel like you and I both kind of just did our own thing. We got the JetBlue even more space seats, so I was pretty comfortable. Um,
Which
yeah, no,
still
it was
had the
cool.
terrible Wi-Fi. That was almost not even worth trying.
Yeah, plain Wi-Fi. It's I don't know why they bother because it never really works properly. But no, I thought the flight was cool. You and I got to fly out of Newark together on Thursday morning, and pretty uneventful, relaxed flight. I was hanging out, listening to my music, probably listened to a few wrestling podcasts because that's who I am. Um, Played some Switch, closed my eyes for a bit. I watched you watch TV on your iPad and fall asleep a few times, so that was
Mm-hmm.
cool. It was a good flight, all things considered.
I am finally getting into Better Call Saul, or at least trying to. But first up, um, I'm trying to remember, Mike. The big Vegas meal was our second night, but did we do anything for food before we went to see Grap House?
Oh, we sure did. We went to Major Domo that night.
No, no, no. Major Domo was.
Major Domo was Thursday
Oh,
night.
you're right. It was. I
Yeah,
keep thinking Major Domo was before GCW, but
no,
GCW had the Thai place.
yeah, which we'll
So
get to.
yeah. Major Domo is a thing that I only really knew about because of Instagram. And if you know anything about things you see advertised or show up in your feed on Instagram, it's beautiful and unrealistic. But that wasn't the
Which
case this time.
sums up the food we ate. Honestly, I still can't. It still all feels like a fever dream.
Yeah, I had a sloppy steak, which was really beautiful. You had a rice cakes dish that was looked out of this world.
Yeah, rice cakes and short rib, some of the best short rib I ever had in my life. But dessert was
Oh no
really
no
the main
no!
event.
Before we get to the dessert, we had the best bread I think either of us have ever had. In
Ooh, yeah, that bread. I could have eaten just that bread with all those different dippings and sauces and toppings. as our dinner.
Yeah, it was insane. Like that was just
It was
borderline.
the fluffiest, just most savory,
Yeah,
best bread I've ever had in my
there
life.
was like a
Uh,
tingly lamb with like some sort of yogurt or some sort of white sauce, and then there was honey and butter in the other dish, um, and then the dessert, Mike. If you had to compare that dessert to a wrestling match, what would you call that? What dessert would that compare to? What match would that compare to?
that dessert was like if you did. That was like an Attitude Era triple threat. That was like The Rock versus Triple H versus Stone Cold. No rules, no DQ, tables, ladders, chairs. Why not? Like, just throw everything in there and
You're
make it
leaving something
delicious.
off. It was an Inferno match because we had fresh Krispy Kreme donuts getting the Bananas Foster treatment of the flambe and everything. So
Mm.
it was like ice cream and donuts and bananas, so it didn't feel completely gluttonous. There
There's
was fruit.
probably Henry. Is any of this on your Instagram still? Because
I
I
think I
it
have
was
like a feed post about it.
yeah.
Let me check this out. Probably do.
'Cause
I couldn't help myself. Yes, no. Yeah. It both the sloppy steak I have and the bananas. The what was it called? The major. It had some very
I think it was just Major Donuts, right?
major
Or
donuts.
the
Yeah, major
dessert.
donuts. Major donuts.
Everything was just Major something.
Yeah, and that was so the
Big
video of the bananas flambe part and the photos of the food are in my feed on Instagram, so you
yeah.
can
So
see the preparation, tableside preparation. Um,
check that out if you want to be very hungry.
yeah, and if you're going to go to Vegas anytime soon, two things: get that meal, and two, wear a mask because everybody else there does. And it was really nice to
Yes.
see. Unless you go to a wrestling show, and then you're going to be like one person at every show that you just keep seeing them like they didn't put it on this entire. Okay.
Mhm.
But aside from that, we had that great meal, some nice little cocktails with that. And then we were off to our first show. And Mike, have you ever been to a wrestling show in a mall before?
I have not. That was definitely a first. I've gone to many a great indie show with you, mostly at Laboom, RIP. Hopefully it'll be back. But yeah, this as far as indie shows go, this is about as indie as it gets because Henry and I pulled up to the Boulevard Mall, which you maybe know if you're from Vegas. If you're not, you definitely don't. Complete middle of nowhere, most random, straight out of like Night of the Living Dead. The mall feels plucked out of the 80s, 90s. And it took place at a facility called I think Versus Pro Studios, which wasn't even really advertised on the directory. So me and Henry are just walking around the mall winging it when we see a train, a literal train driving around the mall, sort of like a go-kart. There was a person driving it, and you could, I guess, pay to ride it, or maybe it was free. I don't know.
There were like
But there were
little kids
families.
inside of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like an attraction in the mall. You could sit on this little train, and someone will drive you around the mall in a miniature train. So funny enough, we just kind of decided to follow that because why not? And that led us to Versus Pro Studios. So sometimes if you see a mysterious miniature train in the mall, just follow it. It'll probably take you somewhere good.
If it looks like it's in an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode, you might not die if you follow it. Like it's very
Yeah,
much.
we took the risk and it worked out. But yeah, Grab House, what a cool experience. I believe this was their first show.
Yep.
Obviously, a lot of like great indie talent from the area and beyond. That some of whom I was familiar with. A lot of people, most of the people were new to me, and they just did an incredible job. The matches were great. We got a bunch of free energy drinks. Shout out to Rain Energy, not a sponsor,
Nope,
but
not a sponsor of
it was
ours.
nice. I definitely needed that because that was our first day in Vegas.
Yep.
And we were awake for like probably 20 hours at that point.
But it was
Yeah,
just to set the section. It's like in a what you could have thought was like the size of an FYE or like every average mall store. They put a
yes,
wrestling show on in there with a full sized ring and everything. And like, I think the first thing I have to note is that like this was not your average show because something that we were told later this is sort of a West Coast tradition than an East Coast tradition. But the commentary team, led by Jody the wrestler, was on the house PA on their microphones, which Jody and his commentary partner called some spots, but it was a lot of just like color, like a lot of just getting riffs in and getting like bits in, and it was just
This is stuff that, yeah, it would not fly on national TV. It was
oh
felt
no.
very specific to the type of show we were at, and Jody did an incredible job. Also, shout out to him and the whole S4 TV crew for putting the whole show together. But that, yeah, to Henry's point, that added so much to the ambiance of that show. Hearing the commentary, it was so loose, so fun, so ridiculous.
And it
Yeah, and
helps
it matched.
it helps make the show less sterile. Like I think a lot of
Yeah.
indie wrestling can sometimes feel like, oh, creak of the ring, bounce of a
Hmm.
body off the ropes, slam of the
Yep.
body onto the, and like maybe if you're lucky you have somebody who talks a lot, like we'll get to, and you can see the little two faces below us if you're watching the video. But like this really added the flavor to it, and like it really, especially I'll say it again, I'll reiterate what Mike said, like we needed all the help, like because it's a long day and I think we're tired. Like I think it helps you stay engaged with the show if
Hmm.
you can hear the commentary. What was, do you have any standout moments or matches from the show?
Yeah, I really there were so many, but I really enjoyed watching Nick Wayne. I forget off the top who his opponent was. He's like 16 years old. He also wrestled at GCW the next night. So impressive, so athletic. Obviously, I loved watching Sandra Moon. I
Yep.
think she killed it. And the main event was great with Adriel Noctis and MV Young, and crowning Adriel the first Grap House champion. It was a really cool emotional moment. It seemed like a big moment for local Vegas wrestling, what was happening there. So that was all cool. And then just like the little things, like we sat next to well, to my right, we were sitting next to a mom and her like older son that she was with, and it was so cool because like you could tell she's just like a veteran of these shows, and she's like brings them all the time and was all about it. But even so, she would get so like frazzled anytime the action was possibly coming near us, which it did on several
Oh
occasions
yeah.
because it's an indie show. The wrestlers are going to come hurling towards you, which we'll
Which is
which we
yeah.
have which we'll get to later on when we talk about
Oh
GCW.
yeah, we will.
Uh,
But
but
the
yeah,
we were
like good,
warned though
yeah.
before the card started by the excellent ring announcer Jay Rose, who I owe some gifts to. But Jay Rose said, if they're coming towards you, if you think they're coming towards you, they are, get out of the way. And like Jay
Yes.
Rose just brought some great energy to that show. And I think one of the matches I liked a lot was the tag team match, which was like kind of a styles clashing situation, if you will, of Dark Sheik and Dana Lynn. That's spelled
Hmm.
Daena Lynn versus Bryn Thorne and Alice Blair. Dark Sheik has their own aesthetic. Dana Lynn is a very like fan favorite, like white meat baby face, and Bryn and Thorne and Blair were sort of like more like, I don't want to say goth, but like the hipsters of the match, kind of. And that
Hmm.
match was really fun, and I just thought that just it was really nice to see, like, because Dark Sheik and Dana Lynn didn't seem to be like, oh, they're most like seemingly, oh, these are two people with completely different personalities, like the way WWE likes to make tag teams. Like it was almost that, but they gelled really well together, and like the whole show was great. I also thought we got a lot of great big beefy men slapping beef matches, um,
Hmm.
including the man himself, Juicy Finau, looked great on that
Hmm.
show.
Yeah.
He just,
That was the scramble match, right? Was that a big battle
I think, yeah,
royale?
I think Juicy was in the scramble. Like there was
Yeah.
another like one on one. The Mikey Banter was in that match, the 1-1 match. Um,
Oh, with Papa.
I'm
I
having
think
trouble
Papa
finding
Yas
a
is his
card. Yeah,
name.
yeah, I think that's correct.
That was
Um,
a highlight for sure. Great match.
yeah, really good show. Let's see here. Yeah, they just announced stuff in. But yeah, no, it was a really fun show, and I got to meet Felix there, aka Frisco Flame, and the one of the coolest things about this show, though, Mike, what was the thing that nobody would know if they were watching from home? What was like? What's the Easter egg for the live crowd? Do you remember the really fun little bonus that we had?
The Easter egg for the live crowd. God, I don't remember. Oh, well, no, this you might have seen on
Well, one
Twitch, but
person you might have seen on, you might have heard somebody on Twitch, but
well, I don't know if this is what you're talking about, Henry, but obviously GCW was in town, and it turned out a lot of those guys were at Grab House, probably obviously friends with some of the wrestlers there, maybe scouting some talent. So you casually just see Effie come out. He ends up doing some commentary. You see Ricky Morton hanging out, Hall of Famer Ricky Morton just hanging out in the back of this tiny mall shop watching a tiny indie wrestling show. I thought was so cool. Brett Lauderdale, the head of GCW, is there.
Jimmy
So
Lloyd,
yeah, that was
like it was a
yeah
bunch of like, and also blonde Effie, blonde variant Effie,
yeah.
deluxe limited edition. It was a really nice like thing to see. Like, okay, the community is watching the because Nick Wayne was on the next day's card, and
Mhm.
like,
As was Dark Sheet.
yeah, yep, you're right. And you know, I just thought it was like a really great way to start the weekend. Like, it was a really nice little. This is an up and coming promotion, literally their first show, and their next show is going to be on August 29th. If you're in Vegas, it's going to be at the Alley on 1031 Fremont Street. It's called Scary Hours, um, and
You
there
mean
might be a
it's October
costume part.
29th, right?
October 29th. What did I say?
Okay. August, which is today.
Woo boy, October
Listen,
29th.
we're still at Vegas brain right now.
Yeah, we're
It's
still in
okay.
Vegas brain, but October 29th is Scary Hours. Bring your costumes, tricks, treats, and party from 7 p.m. until the clock strikes midnight. That is what's going on with Grap House Presents Scary Talk. And right now, speaking of independent wrestling, if you look at what Tiger Driver 9X is doing, the wrestlers and talent that we're going to be working on, Polyam Woodstock, were screwed by the police yesterday, and they could all use your support. And I think Tiger Driver 9X is doing a phenomenal job. Shouts to our guest Chris from last episode, who is just he'll if he ever sees this, he's gonna say he's not gonna take this compliment, but a pillar of the community if ever there was, always raising funds and like I think like every like third or second on sale he puts up, it's like he's supporting a charity. Like, you love to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Tiger Driver.
Um, and you might see the Tiger Driver flag on the feed from Grap House because that was me waving it in the air. Which I did later on, and we're going to get to that in a second. But, Mike, if you ever go to see a wrestling show in the Boulevard Mall, what should you know before you...
You should know that if you stay at the Boulevard Mall past a certain hour, you may not get out, as we learned after Grap House. Grap House wraps up, I don't know, maybe somewhere between 10, 10:30, 11, something like that. And we're making our way back to the front entrance of the mall, only to see that the doors are chained shut and the other doors are straight up locked. So we are locked in a mall, and I immediately in my head, I'm just picturing the most hilarious, like, horror comedy wrestling movie where a mall gets invaded by zombies. The wrestlers have to kill the zombies using wrestling moves. Luckily, it didn't get to that point, but we spent a good chunk of time wandering that mall. Luckily, everyone else had the same predicaments. We were all kind of traveling in a pack. Henry had some great Instagram stories documenting it all.
We'd already
And then
called the
finally,
Lyft or Uber, and,
yes,
like, you're
Uber,
talking to the
yeah.
driver going, trying to explain it to him.
Yeah, our Uber was already on the way. So long story short, we found this one entrance that was open all the way in the back. We made this complete roundabout to finally get to the front. So I thought that was such a hilarious end cap to a very, very fun-filled and jam-packed day. That we're really all over the place. We landed in Vegas, went to the fanciest Vegas restaurant, and then did the complete opposite. Went to
Yep.
a tiny indie show in a random mall. Got stuck there, but I wouldn't trade a thing. It was totally worth it.
Yep.
Excellent day one.
Yep. And that was followed up by, well, a little pool time to recuperate. But after that,
Yes.
we went to downtown Vegas, Mike. And I got to tell everybody at home, Lay Thai in downtown Vegas. I don't want to.
Yes.
I don't want to send the entire Cinephiles army there. I don't want to blow up their spot. But like, yeah, get that spiked Thai iced tea. It's
Yes. Lei Tai, that was probably my favorite meal of the week. Shout out to Caitlin for the suggestion. Yeah, we had excellent wings, excellent noodles. I think we both had pad kimao.
Pad CU.
Pad see right,
And
right.
I got it with a spiciness of 4, and the waiter was like, "Are you sure?" And I almost was like, "Do you even hot ones, bruh?"
Did you regret that choice at any point? Did it feel how spicy?
It
did
wasn't
it feel to you?
excessively spicy, but it was spicy. It was like I thought to myself, if I had gone to 5, I might have felt like I had made a mistake, but I also was curious what 5 would have been like. I was like going through that in my head the whole time, but it was really good. Just like a really good meal, and weekday happy hour deal was just like a really good,
Mm.
especially after we didn't say it, but Major Domo is expensive. Um,
Yeah, it was a Vegas restaurant,
yeah, yeah,
like strip restaurant.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was in Diana Palazzo. So yeah, it was. That's where it was. So we were off the strip. We were in downtown Vegas, and I really want to spend more time in downtown Vegas next time I go back.
Same. It's such a different vibe from the strip. I mean, it feels more like a traditional city. It's much more. You can walk around, stumble into a random bar. There's this. I don't even know how you describe it, but that kind of like that concourse area where we had the big LED thing above us, and there are all the different shops, and people zip lining. It was like a weird mix of like a night market and an amusement park and weed shops galore. It was an experience for sure.
Yeah, CBD weed
Well,
shops galore. But it was like
weed
the
asterisk.
Thunderdome.
Yeah.
It was like the Thunderdome, the street, that LED
Yes.
sign above us. It really felt weird in that way. But yeah, no, it was like a very funny and fun little time. And once we figured out they were zip liners above us, we were both like, nah, not doing that.
Nope. Um, but yeah, so obviously the reason we were in downtown Vegas was for the big GCW show, GCW Off the Rails. For those unfamiliar, I think it's safe to say they're one of the bigger indie wrestling promotions out there. They've got some great talent. They've got some really big names. And yeah, that was probably my favorite wrestling show of the week because it was the perfect middle ground of it was an indie show, but it was still, a lot of big names, pretty really
Big
good venue.
personalities.
Yeah, big personality. Venue was great. They had a nice outdoor area with merch, and most importantly, they were selling White Claw, which made me very happy. Yeah, and God, there's so much to talk about from this one show. Uh, I'm not even sure where to
I
start,
know where
but
to start. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the night wasn't GCW's night. Even though Friday Night SmackDown was on, it wasn't
Oh
WWE's night.
yes, right.
When we
Before,
were
yeah,
waiting online, I spent some of the day trying to figure out, and shouts to Sam, I believe, she helped me figure this out. The TNT app offered both an East Coast stream and a West Coast stream if you could connect your cable provider to it, and you could also watch on Sling because we're out west and it's Pacific time zone, and we were really curious about watching this little show. I think some people tuned in. I'm not sure what the ratings were like. Nobody's written about that though. It was called The Last Dance AEW Rampage. Sorry, the first dance. The first dance, and that was because we were after we get dinner and we're walking around, we got on this line for GCW, but then at a certain point, everybody got their phone out and was watching AEW Rampage off the last AEW Rampage, the first dance on their phones to watch the return of CM Punk. And like, I don't even remember what people were saying. Like, I remember one guy goes, "He's actually there." Like, there were people who like somebody said recently, like, people have been so gaslit by WWE over the years that we don't believe. I think it was Chris on the Tiger Driver podcast. We've been so messed with by WWE over the years that even if AEW can basically tell us without telling us that Punk is going to be there, people aren't going to believe it until it actually happens. And then it
yeah,
did. And he
it
walks
did.
out.
Open the show.
Yep. He just walks out, and it was just like, okay. And everybody just, I'm like, ear to the phone trying to listen, and it was just, like, that's sort of when they started to let people in. And it was this nice little moment.
It was cool to share that with other people in line, because we're all doing the same thing. We're all marks. We're all, we're about to go to this indie show, but we all want to see CM Punk. So that was cool to experience kind of with other people in real time as we're all watching our phones. It was cool for me because I kind of missed the Punk era, so that when I got home later on, that kind of spurred me to catch up and watch a lot of old matches and old podcasts. But yeah, that was a hell of a way to kick off what would be a pretty big night in wrestling, because from top to bottom, that GCW event was great. Very early on, we got to see the Deathmatch King himself, not Nick Gage, but the GCW champ. But the GCW champ.
You're gonna get
Matt
stabbed
Cardona.
with a pizza cutter for saying that.
I know. I would think I was like the one person in that crowd cheering for him. But that was a great shtick. He came out dressed like ECW era Vince McMahon with the black do-rag, the all black getup, and it was a really funny moment because it was obviously staged, but he's been doing this open challenge thing, and he called out what seemed like a random bystander, this large fellow named Sam, and yeah, it was at first it seemed like a bit. He was just going to beat up this random person and walk out, but no, it turned out Sam could wrestle, and they had like a little bit of a match before eventually Cardona put him away. So I thought that was pretty cool, and that had to feel cool for Sam, who got to share the ring with a world champion.
Yeah, the match went a total of 5 minutes 51 seconds, according to the Legends over at Cage Match, and
Oh,
it was just like a really nice short. Like the great thing about this show is like the longest match is your 3-on-3 main event, hardcore death match, which 18, a little under 19. That makes sense. Like every match on this show was under 13. Yeah, under 13 minutes. Oh no, Chris Bane, Too Cold Scorpio was
mhm.
16:47. But like this show had a really good pacing to it, and you got to see Juventud Guerrera fresh off of his fresh off of his AEW
His dynamite, yeah.
Dynamite appearance in the Labors of Jericho, and Jimmy Lloyd, Dark Sheik. Excellent use of a staple gun with money.
Ooh, one of my favorite matches. It made me wince so much. But yeah, those two put on such a great show. So much stapling, so many dollar bills. It was painful, but fantastic.
One point, you stepped away, and then Effie and Ricky Morton fought, and Effie hit Ricky Morton with a Canadian Destroyer, which was just sort of like, oh, or no, Ricky Morton hit a Canadian Destroyer on Effie, which was
Yep.
insane. Jordan Oliver and Starboy Charlie was a very fun, like, sprint sort of match, and then I almost died.
Yes. Oh man. So one of the bigger matches of the night: AJ Gray versus Alley Catch, two GCW staples, two former friends, I believe, who kind of had this feud going, and you could really tell that they had been feuding because Alley Catch has her entrance, AJ Gray has his entrance, which is a very big, like, it's a very music heavy entrance. Everyone sings
It's
along to it.
yeah, Waka
Everyone's
Flocka Flames. Oh, let's do
yes,
this, and he comes out first to that, and
yeah.
no, Alley Catch came out first, and Alley Catch came out first, and AJ Gray comes out next. Everybody's singing the song, Mike, and then at a certain point, I remembered what J Rose said about what happens if you think people are coming towards you. That if you think somebody's coming towards you and they're a wrestler, they are, and so in like bullet time from the Matrix, I just sort of like jump out of my seat and walk like 3 persons to the left of me, and Alley Catch at that point is running off of the apron of the ring and does a
Hmm.
cannonball onto AJ, and it was just like the entire room was like, okay, 'cause that was the match that's after the intermission, correct?
Yes. Yep.
That's one way to get the crowd's attention.
Yeah, and not and I don't know at what point this happened, but so yeah, so it all starts with that initial dive, which, like Henry, I kind of saw happening in slow motion. AJ's approaching us, just high-fiving the crowd. And then Allie just dives at him, which happens to be right where we were sitting. And then before I saw that happen, and then I'm just kind of scrambling around, like trying to get some distance. And before I could even look up, I think she dove yet again and was in the crowd again. And then at some point, your chair was just broken.
Yeah, I
Which,
want to go back and rewatch the match. Like, I might pay for the
yes,
video on demand, to be honest. Um,
yeah. Which I'm sure that's somewhere on your Instagram as well. If you guys want to see the broken chair, it's got to be
oh yeah, no,
documented
I have a
somewhere.
photo of the broken chair. Like, my name tag is they put your name on your seats at GCW, and like it was very funny because I'm like, Ali and AJ are both like associated / affiliated with Tiger Driver in their own ways, and Chris, and so I'm waving that flag, and in retrospect I almost felt like I was like, okay, Ali's not running a bull gimmick, but I was like a the bullfighter in a way, like, oh crap, I sort of maybe I had it coming to myself, but they
Yeah.
had a really good hard fought, like lots of good lariats and lots of good like they really put it through. And then we had Chris Bay versus Too Cold Scorpio.
that was definitely one of my favorite matches of the weekend. Especially it was a really good, and there's parallels I think between this and Reigns versus Cena, which we'll talk about. It's like they started the match off very slow with a lot of just fun back and forth, a lot of storytelling, a lot of just showing up their personalities before they really got into it. But yeah, once this match heated up, I mean, these are two like, you know, two in Chris Bay, probably one of the best like high flyers, most athletic dudes wrestling now. Too Cold Scorpio, probably one of the best at that style in his day, and he still has it. So seeing that, it was such a cool match, and yeah, it was cool to see just the respect between the two of them. They had a nice little celebration after and mutual show of respect. But yeah, Too Cold Scorpio, man, still has it after all these years.
And it drew a little bit of a some special guests peeping through the back of the arena, supposedly. Austin Creed and some other wrestlers showed up
Hmm.
to witness Too Cold Scorpio live in person.
Here's the secret, guys. Wrestlers are all friends, even if they work for different companies. There are
Well, this
WWE guys
we have
that
to.
there are WWE guys that talk to indie guys when no one's looking.
Are you going to tell me that like Adam Cole and Britt Baker are friends? Like
I
what?
think
What's
they've definitely I think they've exchanged. She came to one of his shows actually, so.
I, I remember that. Yeah. But next, Mike, you got to witness, and I'm just going to toss it to you. The Nick Gage entrance. What was it like in person for the first time?
It was every bit of what I expected. Just to back up for folks. So yeah, the main event was Nick the MDK gang, Nick Gage and Mance Warner, Matthew Justice versus was it 440? Is that how
Yep.
you say
Yep.
there? Uh the Ohio boys, but Nick Gage obviously has been a big name, especially big name this year since his Dark Side of the Ring episode. Legendary deathmatch wrestler, has been in some of the most iconic and controversial and
He
violent
died
wrestling
in a
matches ever.
match. That
He
man
straight up
died in a match.
he straight up died for 8 minutes once, and especially I quickly became a fan after seeing his Dark Side episode earlier this year, and I watched his him versus Cardona a few months back, and so I was excited. Yeah, this was going to be my first Nick Gage match in person, so I sort of knew what to expect, but not totally. And yeah, no, I think it lived up to the hype in every way. I mean, he has one of the most incredible entrances because there's no one that's as connected to the crowd as he is. The
Nope.
people swarm him. They basically do a mosh pit. He's hugging, high fiving left and right, and it's such an intense energy where he looks like pissed off as he's high fiving everyone, but he loves everyone so much. It was cool. I mean, at one point he was standing right next to me doing his, he was making his
Yeah.
round around the four corners, and he was standing right next to us, and just everyone just giving him so much love. So that was cool. I mean, it was like it's one thing to see that on VOD and see that on TV, but to see the love people have for him in person was crazy. Almost as crazy as the match we watched. Before things got underway, I got to give shout out / I'm sorry to everyone in 440 because those boys, we were standing behind them. We were in their corner. We were sitting behind them in their corner.
Yeah.
And they were shirtless, so we saw their bare backs. And you could tell these guys do this kind of thing a lot because it's just welts and scars and just it looks like they've been through a lot. So that kind of right away sets the tone for what we were about to see. And yeah, it was a death match, all right. A lot of crazy spots, a lot of doors were broken, glass was broken, heads were busted open.
They had the little spikes. There was like neon green little like
Oh my god.
stabby things that dudes were stabbed. The guys from 440H brought a bunch of forks to the ring to use as weapons, which were actually literally used to stab people in the forehead.
Mhm.
You're seeing why we don't do this as a wrestling podcast that often. Hi Marie. So basically, Mike, I had a question for you going into this. What did you expect when because you knew it was going to be, because I had sort of said, like, I checked in that like the Vegas Athletic Commission didn't have any rules against death matches, so we were partying at light tubes and stuff. What did you expect it would be like to be in a, what was your expectations versus reality when it comes to being at a show with light tubes being used as weapons?
I mean, it was exactly what I expected for the most part, although you just can't seeing the actual brutality of it up close, you can't fully prepare for that, and just the little things too. Like we were in the front row, and I had never really factored in that shards of those light tubes are going to come at you. So yeah, every time those light tubes broke, you felt it a little bit,
You had like
and I
a
think there
little
was
like
some.
ding.
Yeah, there. I think there were. I saw people walking out, fans walking out of the arena with a tiny bit of blood on them, which I don't know if that was from one of the wrestlers or that was because they got pricked by a piece of light tube. But yeah, that's the part you can't fully prepare for. Seeing and hearing it. So there was, the match ended, but there was kind of like a post-match brawl, and there was a really brutal series of light tube spots where Nick Gage was just going to town on that whole crew, and that poor guy. I forgot which one got hit twice,
I
but this
think
one
it
guy.
was Eric Ryan was the one,
Yeah,
not the one with the nose piercing, not the
it
big
was
guy
the
Ricky Shane
bald
Page.
gentleman.
Yeah, the ball.
Yeah.
Eric Ryan is the guy who took the most, like, who chair light tube shot directly square onto the head. It was like with the energy that, like, I want to say like Metallica drummers would use to, like, that's what Nick Gage brought to that man's forehead with that light tube. And
Yeah, and
then
just
repeatedly
seeing
to
the
stab.
blood. Yeah, just seeing the blood drizzling down his back is just like, holy crap. That was the part where, like, I knew it was coming, but seeing it up close in person, and just hearing and feeling and literally feeling the tubes come at you, that's the part I wasn't quite fully ready for. But it was, but no, all things considered, I mean, even being front row for such a crazy show, like with everything that happened, we still were pretty safe. They're all, professionals over there, and put on a fantastic show, and that was probably my favorite, straight up wrestling of the whole weekend.
Yeah. And after that, we almost thought about going out that night, but it was just like, we've had a long day. Like, let's
Yeah,
just
I
get back
literally,
to.
that was the night where I just got back to my room and passed out. But it's a good thing I did, because then we wake
We,
up and it's Saturday, the big day.
we had to save our energy for this one. This was
Yes.
like, if here's the advice: if you go to Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, don't do what we did. Like, maybe pre-reserve and, like, I don't know how you would guess what the end of the show is, but, like, plan your route home, people. Like, we ended up
Mm,
doing the longest walk ever to get from the Allegiant Stadium back to the hotel, and that's part of why we need all our energy possible. But also, hope that you don't go to the Allegiant Stadium when they have a blackout on their services using purchases. So we went to a dry pay-per-view practically.
So before, I just want to give a quick shout out, because yeah, I mean, Saturday was pretty much all SummerSlam, but we did make a quick pit stop at the Moon Palace. That was our pre-SummerSlam meal, which thank God we had that, because we definitely needed the food after what happened at Allegiant. But yeah, that was like Major Domo, like Momofuku's. That's like their slider bar right across from where we had dinner Thursday night, and it was basically like a high-end White Castle. Some really good sliders. You get chips instead of fries; those were delicious.
Freshly
And they
made,
had,
like, potato chips that can have, like, spicy or sweet flavoring to them.
yes, and what were those freaking the little
Half dips.
pancake pies?
Half dips.
Half dips.
It was
I
like a
kept calling
moon
them
pie.
moon.
It was like a
I
moon
kept
pie,
calling.
but, like,
Yeah.
it was like a marshmallow filled potato sandwich. Sorry, marshmallow filled pancake sandwich with chocolate dip on half of it, and it was just the right kind of decadent.
Yeah, it was excellent. So that was a good way to set the tone. But
Oh,
yeah, as
and I
Henry
had a
said,
giant frozen when I was at the pool, because I found time to go to the pool. I got a giant frozen margarita that was like, yay, and it was like, that was, unfortunately, I wasn't even feeling that when we got to the arena, because traffic was so bad at the arena that we had to walk the last mile to get there. Our Uber driver, like,
she straight up.
she was warning us that it was going to be. I'm like, you should have not taken the
Yeah,
whatever.
it was.
But I think we got off. Everything worked out
Yeah, we made it to Allegiant. That's all that mattered.
more than early enough. Like, we had time.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, yeah, I don't. It's so. Yeah, I mean, I'll. There's a lot to talk about SummerSlam. It was cool. I mean, I think that was my first live WWE pay per view. So cool experience for me. And we had pretty good seats, and it was cool to just have that big stadium experience. We were close enough to the ring where you could actually watch the match in the ring for the most part, and you still have the Titantrons above, and yeah, it was cool. It's a good thing. It's a good thing we got there early because we were able to at least have a few beers before the infamous Wi-Fi incident where everything went down.
Well, no, the
We had
Wi-Fi
a
was still up. It was like their like services on their back end because
yes.
5G didn't work for shit at that building. So I had to turn on Wi-Fi to actually get my phone to post photos, which was hilarious. But yeah, no, we got there. We're hanging out, just like surrounded by people who are pretty much younger than us, except the row behind us was kind of older. But
Mhm.
the show we were trying to figure out how do you start the show off, and there's only one way to. You got to go big.
Yeah, I'll want to go big. Yeah, that was a nice surprise. Obviously, they didn't really announce this ahead of time, but we got the pre-show match was Big E versus Baron Corbin, which was a delight because I love Big E, one of my favorite wrestlers, and I also love Baron Corbin, who's just we'll talk about later, but
Doing the
just such
work
a
of his
such,
career right now.
yeah, such a consistently great heel and character performer. So that was a fun way to set the tone. Of course, Big E, for those that have been following WWE, Big E finally got his Money in the Bank briefcase back. Baron Corbin was just even more desolate than ever, and that set up a whole new storyline for him. But the first proper match of SummerSlam was RK Bro, Randy Orton, and Matt Riddle
Oh, no,
versus
it's just
AJ Styles.
Riddle. They took the
Oh, sorry, sorry.
they took the mat away because they don't want to have his lawsuits brought up if somebody Googles the name Matthew Riddle.
Of course, because
But he
yeah,
still
he just
uses that in
yeah.
social media, so who knows? Versus AJ Styles and his Colossus Omos.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, the crowd, like, if you look at the rest of the card up and down, like you have like some people who are over as Rover, let's just say, like you're some big pops we got later, but the entrance pops for Randy Orton, Riddle, and AJ were those songs are just
Mm-hmm. Those men are over, and Riddle, love it or hate it, probably had the loudest one. That
Orton's was better than
I
Riddle's.
think Randy actually, yeah, Randy did, and everyone was singing his theme song too, including me because I'm a big Orton mark. That was one of my highlights, just getting to see Randy in action, getting to see him land the RKO for the finish. We all knew they were gonna win. It was about time that title changed hands, but I thought that was a fun match to properly set SummerSlam off.
And then you had the crowd sort of get deflated with Alexa Bliss versus Eva Marie, which involved Eva Marie slapping the little doll Lily, or did she slap Alexa with Lily? Either way,
I don't
Alexa
remember.
won.
Yeah.
Either way, Alexa won, and Alexa Bliss's whole gimmick still feels like it's just custom made for children and people who are on an FBI watch list. Um, and then this was around the time that I was like, yeah, this is time to go get some food because it's Sheamus
Yep.
versus Damian Priest, which is like, okay, I want to stick around for Alexa Bliss versus Eva Marie for like, the cringe, what's going to happen factor. Also, I wanted to see Doudrop turn on, like, Piper Niven is awesome, and I was really hoping we would get to see her turn on Eva Marie. The match is only 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah.
Eva
We
Marie
sort
is
of got that
yeah,
though.
we got that a little bit because Doudrop celebrates Eva Marie as a little loser of the match when she gets on the mic. She grabs her robe and like sachets away, and yeah, it was a nice little thing. And then I want a beer. I want some food. I'm hungry. Let's go to the concession stand. Oh wait, nobody can sell anything, and it's like it turns out it was a more than just this building thing. It was like
Yeah.
other stadiums around the country had their point of service sales cut off, which is why it wasn't a good idea for everybody to go credit only for sales venues. Thanks, Sweet Green, for coming up with that great idea that was basically designed to keep homeless people out of your stores. No, it was this meant that everybody was either going to get free food because if you like these venues don't know what to do, like they have all this food, they're not going to like you want to
I will
build.
say it was. We chose a good time to get up there because I think we got to the concession stand right as all that was happening, and they were trying to figure everything out. And eventually, they were like, "Screw it, let's give out the food that we made that we have." So I think if we got there any later, we probably would have missed out on the free food. So hey, we got free food. I had some delicious chicken tenders and fries. I think.
Yep.
Yeah, there was also you got a burger.
It was all like it was a restaurant called Fuku Burger, which is not
Yeah.
trying to be namespace pollution for David Chang's fried chicken restaurant. But no, it was a chicken katsu sandwich, and then I also got my own fries. It was like a weird. I was like, yeah, no, I've been waiting here for a while. I'm taking one of each thing. And during that time, I watched it back on. Damian Priest almost killed himself by landing really awkwardly, and he beat Sheamus. And even though Priest's entrance didn't get a huge pop, which I think is because the stadium the entranceway wasn't designed for maximum visibility. We'll get to that later.
Mm-hmm.
But like, also because Damian Priest's entrance music is just generic as hell. Like Sheamus will get a pop on his entrance because everybody knows that dude's song. But yeah, that was the pop for the Damian Priest win, and he seems to be over, and that's doing well. And then I don't remember much about Usos Mysterios.
No, it was another Usos Mysterios match. They're always good. Those guys, I mean, four of the best performers out there. And Usos retained as we expected. Mysterios are probably going to split up soon.
On Friday, yeah, they have this whole thing where like, you need to go on your own now. Dominic is like the new thing, and it's weird. And Sami Zayn beat him, and then here we get to the moment that broke the night.
Yeah. Oh man, this was such a weird thing. So I mean, I'll set this up, and then you can take it from there, Henry. But basically, so up next was supposed to be the WWE SmackDown Women's Title match. It was originally billed as Sasha Banks challenging Bianca Belair. The rematch from WrestleMania, such an incredible match. This was going to be, of course, a great rematch. There were rumblings leading up to things that Sasha wasn't going to make SummerSlam. We didn't totally know why. Was she sick? Was injured? Something else? But they waited until the absolute last minute. I mean, they played the promo package showing the feud. But right as Bianca came out, the announcer said, Sasha Banks is unable to compete tonight. And taking her place will be... And then Carmella's
the most beautiful woman in WWE, Like, I love Greg Hamilton. I think he's an excellent ring announcer. But that dude gets some of the corniest shit to say sometimes. And, like, he announces Carmella. And here's the thing. Carmella's been getting better and better over the last, like, few years. Like, especially doing some great character work. But also, like, that submission finish of hers, that, like, is a great move. And then... But the crowd wanted what it was advertised. They wanted Bianca versus Sasha.
And they sold shirts with the two of them on it.
They're still selling shirts for that match. Card subject to change. WWE reportedly knew about this at least 8 days before this match. So it spent a week plus advertising a match it knew it wasn't going to have. And then... right as the bell is about to ring for Carmella versus Bianca, and Bianca looks dejected. Bianca looks sad. Oh! Becky Lynch's music hits, and right now we had gone from... The roller coaster is creaking forward without Sasha, because Sasha was nowhere to be seen on SmackDown. Bianca wrestled 2 matches and won both of them, I think, against Sasha's cronies, and then Carmella was the dip down, and then when the stock market spiked back up, like it was to the moon, that crowd's emotion.
That place, I have such a great video on my phone of, because I was getting ready to just record the start of the match or be ready to record any surprise that might happen, and you see the exact moment Becky's music hits, and you could tell that I jumped up because the video just suddenly jerks around. That was probably the loudest pop of the night. There was one other that was maybe as loud that we'll talk about later, but God, what a moment! So before things got sour, it was awesome. Like Becky Lynch is back. We've all been waiting. She had her child recently. We knew she was going to come back at some point. Yeah, what a great time for her to come back, challenge Bianca Belair. Like, yeah, that's a dream match.
Bianca's got this great look on her face. She's excited. She's happy. Like she looks shocked. Acting, by the way, acting.
Good job.
Not just for John Cena. But yeah, and then Becky Lynch just takes Carmella and like whoop, out of the ring, whoop, into the stairs. Like, you go from a potential triple threat to a potential dream match. The crowd is getting more hot. The crowd is getting more live. And Becky gets the mic, and she sort of challenges Bianca to a match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. What about the EST and the man? That's my worst
Great,
Irish
great
impression.
impression.
Yeah,
Spot on. You
yeah,
nailed it.
yeah. And then Bianca takes a moment, and it's like, yeah, you know, let's do it. Shake of the hands, and then bell rings, and Becky Lynch goes for another handshake. And this is the start of this is in the middle of a 25-second moment that destroyed, like, that made everybody else have to work twice as hard afterwards. Because
Yeah.
Becky Lynch grabs Bianca, sort of elbow punches Bianca and puts her in the manhandle slam, which is basically a rock bottom, basically a uranagi, and 1, 2, 3. The star of SmackDown, who isn't Roman Reigns, who had been built up really well, like delivering the best white meat babyface promos, like Bianca Belair is so good, has basically been given the Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania treatment, and I don't know what they expected would happen after that, except for the crowd to half cheer
Yeah,
and
it was
half
it
go,
was a weird.
what?
I think it started out as a pop because just the sheer shock of it, just seeing
Yeah.
Becky come back, and within a minute she was holding the SmackDown Women's title. But then, like, the reality started to set in. We're like, wow, they really did this to Bianca, just like they did this to Kofi about a year and a half ago, or yeah, almost 2 years ago. Like,
First Friday Night
kind of,
SmackDown on Fox.
yeah, ruining these incredible championship runs just for a cheap pop.
Just
It was so
because WWE is screwed because AEW is taking the weekend, and WWE is going to do whatever it can to try to get headlines when CM Punk is owning everything. But this wasn't going to change that.
And I felt so conflicted because as Henry knows, I'm a massive Becky Lynch fan, one of my favorite wrestlers. And it was like the elation of seeing her back, but then seeing how they did Bianca, who's another one, probably one of my favorites right now. She did not. Yeah, she deserves so much better than that. I'm sure they'll have some kind of. It's already happening. Bianca's gonna work her way back. I'm sure they'll have a good feud and eventually an actual match. But man, Bianca deserves so much better. It really soured Becky's return, and you could just feel it in the crowd. The crowd was really deflated after that because the next few matches, the crowd was pretty silent. Granted, the next match was Jinder Mahal versus Drew McIntyre, so I think the crowd was going to be pretty quiet regardless. But it was just like, whoa. We're all just exhausted and so confused and have so many mixed emotions from what just happened. So the next few matches things were pretty silent.
Like, let's recap that for a little bit. Sasha can't wrestle. Carmella, Becky. Carmella's out. Becky destroys Bianca in less than 30 seconds. Those 5 things happen in what was probably like a span of a few minutes, it felt like. And it was just... I gotta say, like, I've been going to WWE big pay-per-views for a while now, and I think it was WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans that sort of taught me, don't expect something expect WWE to pull something. Like, it's gonna do something that will basically test the audience's ability to keep going. Yeah. And that's what that was. And then, in the Battle of the Sword versus Jinder lost, but Drew's promise to make a huge moment did not happen. There was no stab wounds. There was no Evil Dead style blood gushing. I was hoping somebody gets some Army of the Dead style schlock for this, but
he tried. He did swing his sword at at Jinder's boys towards the end of the match, but pretty quick squash. Claymore 1, 2, 3, and we're done.
Shout out to Angela, Drew McIntyre's late mother, who the sword is named after. Respect. And then you had the match where, for the first third of it, if somebody coughed across the arena, you could hear it. Your WWE Raw Women's Title triple threat match between Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, and the defending champion Nikki A.S.H. And Nikki A.S.H.'s entrance got nothing of a pop.
Yeah, it's weird. I think it was a mix of just the crowd being out of it from the Bianca moment, and maybe her not being as over as we thought, or maybe just the luster of. I think the luster of her being champion was starting to wear off. I think her Money in the Bank moment was great.
It's also a smarky crowd. It's a crowd that, like, it's the big WWE pay-per-view crowds are like the hardcorest fans who might be like not everybody's bringing their kids, either maybe
They want to
adults.
see the biggest names, because I would say Charlotte probably got the best reaction out of
Charlotte got the big
out of those three women.
Charlotte got the big pop, and also people. So Charlotte, if you don't know, is the bad person in this feud. She is the I'm gonna say mean things to you, and they're gonna be corrected. I'm gonna smile person in this feud, and she basically was like, I'm gonna tap this like lovable Nikki Ash is this like lovable underdog, wannabe superhero, who's doing her best and tries her hardest. And Charlotte Flair tapped her ass out in the figure eight, and the crowd popped for the underdog getting defeated by the.
But yeah,
overdog.
I do want to give a shout out to these three women, because I thought they put on a really good match, and they had a really tough job of performing for a crowd that was just kind of upset and getting bored and getting impatient. But I think the crowd started to come to life towards the end, as you said, like especially by the finish.
Charlotte had a corkscrew moonsault that was just like, okay, yeah, no, we remember who she is, but also remember, this is the crowd that is not being fed alcohol. Like, this is a crowd that isn't being able to get what it wants. Like, this was a Murphy's Law, although he's now Buddy Matthews. This was a Murphy's Law pay-per-view. Everything that could go wrong practically did. Also, it was around this time that, like, sort of, like, WWE loves to do the same sort of things that alienate the audiences at the live shows. They had these spotlights that were sort of like, at one match they were in somebody else that we knew's eyes, and then the spotlights were sort of interfering with our ability to see the match, and they would kept turning.
There were chants of
turn the lights off,
yeah.
And then like they would have they would turn on and off the Tron, so you would be harder to, like, if you want to see the facial expressions of the wrestlers, it would be harder to see it, and it was just like what it was. But the crowd came back, Mike. The crowd came back for some nostalgia, because what do we love more than nostalgia? Not much.
Yeah, of course we had Edge versus Seth Rollins coming up next, one of the most anticipated matches of the night. I think we all knew beforehand it was probably going to be match of the night. And Edge went full Brood, bringing back the Attitude Era gimmick and the music and the really goth get up, and it was fantastic.
The fire, the full fire, which we could barely see.
But I'm very glad, like, that was cool to see, but I kind of wanted the old music to hit, because it's just such a natural pop when you hear "You Think You Know Me."
Well, that's a good thing, because once Edge's Brood entrance was over, he sort of crouched, and what's that song called, Mike?
Oh, the Alter Bridge song or whatever. Yeah. Whatever it is, that hit.
No. I'm gonna if you're not gonna say it, I will.
What's it called?
Hold on a second. I want to confirm this, because it's a song. Metalingus.
Wait, is it really called Metalingus?
Yeah. I was like, wait. I was like, don't you know? I was like, okay. I was like, okay. You would have said it. Yeah. Edge's theme song is called Metalingus. Metalingus. And the facial expression you can see on Mike right now, watch the video version. I got to witness Mike like this at another point during the night, and we won't explain what happened, but when you see Mike experiencing joy and like he's like sort of like laughing and he's like in a ball of laughter, it's the most unwholesome thing ever. But it takes a lot to pop this man. But yes, Alter Bridge's Metalingus hit, and the crowd popped alive, and we knew that it was time for the first of the three big main events. And I don't want to say too much. I'm not going to call this match move for move, but they broke out everything, and they teased all of Edge's neck trauma, and this match fucked.
Bell to bell, the best match of the night, maybe the best match we saw all weekend. Just these are two guys that are always going to put it all out there, and so much storytelling in the match, such great use of their signature moves. I think one of my favorite moments was Seth Rollins countering the spear and turning it into a pedigree, which was insane. They all put it all out there. Edge got the pin, and
Edge catching Rollins' foot in the curb stomp and turning it into a submission. I would say my match of the weekend though was Walter Ilya Dragunov. NXT Takeover the following night, end of another era. And then we got to have if that was the best match of the night, we got to have the best emotions of the night next. Because up next, so going into this match, Bobby Lashley with MVP versus the returning, aging, lumbering, but still iconic old Bill Gerg. This was a match for the WWE Championship, and the crowd did not actually want to root for the heel and boot and cheer for the babyface. Goldberg is ostensibly the good guy in this match, but he's an old veteran who comes back and demands a title match that he did not earn. And Lashley has been just, aside from like a couple of weeks where like, oh, we missed the Hurt Business. Like Lashley has been owning Monday Night Raw. Lashley and MVP have made Monday Night Raw. They carried the company. I would say of the people who carried the company during the pandemic, it's them, it's Roman, and it's Asuka. Like they are,
and Drew deserves some credit too.
Drew during like that first half of the pandemic, especially like the what you would call like the performance era of the pandemic, that was great. But this match starts and Goldberg just is doing regular ass wrestling moves, and we're just like, this man knows how to do these. Like we're waiting for Goldberg's 5 moves of doom. We're waiting for the spear, the jackhammer. And it's just like, oh, this is a pump handle. This is like a power slam. Like, huh?
Yeah.
But the crowd is booing Goldberg. Like it's.
And this was so like again, as Henry alluded to, like this was such a great moment of like, yeah, there's the baby face, there's a heel, but ultimately the crowd decides who the good guy and the bad guy are, because this was such a cathartic moment. I think the combination of this was always going to happen because we all love Bobby and no one really wanted to see Goldberg. But I think you combine that with...
Not just that, but we were, I think, if you say, by me, when I say we, I mean it's not everybody, but some of us are still booing Goldberg for his politicking to win the WWE the Universal Championship off of The Fiend in that godforsaken match when he's like, I need to have my son see me beat which is part of why we hate Goldberg's son. Like The Fiend will be, Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda will be in full power somewhere else soon. Who knows? Impact wants him. Of course they want him. But like wherever he goes, he will thrive. But I think people still hate Goldberg for that. Some people might still hate Goldberg for crushing Kevin Owens way back when. Like, it's not,
or for the Undertaker match.
Yeah. Well, when he almost murdered the Undertaker in Saudi Arabia.
There's countless, but anyway, so that's all. Yeah, that's all important background, and then you combine that with just everyone's pent up frustration from the night. We're mad about Bianca. Everyone's upset about the not having beer. Like just a lot of pent up things. Yep. I think that's the moment where the crowd just let all of that out, because Goldberg was getting his ass absolutely kicked. Bobby was like, he was working an injury, like he was kept going for the same leg, and
so we didn't notice it because Goldberg didn't sell it. I watched this match back. Yeah. At one point, MVP strikes Goldberg's leg on this one, his right knee, I think, with this cane of his. And, like, Goldberg treats it like a fly just bit him on the leg and then proceeds to sell it when Lashley attacks it. So that's why I, in the crowd, didn't realize that there was a cheap shot, like outside interference shot. That's why I didn't get it. But it turns out that was the story of the match. And then Lashley just keeps hammering that busted knee. And what happened next?
So Lashley's work on that busted knee. I forget the exact sequence of events. So did Lashley? I think the ref stopped the match, right?
The referee called the match for Lashley. Referee's decision, and it was just like, huh? Like at first it looked like Goldberg might have actually been injured. Like it was such an unexpected moment that like, wait, is he shoot hurt? But then Lashley gets a steel chair, and Lashley lets this old man know that this is no country for old men. He goes to town on that, and
we are just hollering. We are cheering as if John Cena just cured a little small sick child. Like we are cheering like this is the greatest babyface moment of all time.
We are cheering like we are Goldberg's doctor, thinking how much money we're going to make on that surgery on that knee. We are cheering like we want him to go to the retire. We are cheering like if Vince McMahon finds out he doesn't have to pay the remainder of Goldberg's contract. Like, it was
Yep.
the crowd was cheering on the injury of a old man, and it was
And it didn't stop there.
it was really
because,
fun to do.
That was cathartic enough, but then, Goldberg's son, Gage, the lesser Gage of the weekend, decides to attack Bobby Lashley, and Bobby just, I think, tosses him over his shoulder. Like it was hilarious.
Grabs Gage and puts him, this is like a high school sophomore, I think.
Yeah.
Puts this kid in his submission move, which is called the Hurt Lock, and he just is waving him up and down like a puppet.
And the crowd only got louder. We are cheering first we're cheering for Bobby Lashley just destroying this old man and possibly permanently injuring him. Then we're cheering for him like murdering a teenager. It was such a fun moment, and I think we all needed that at that point in the night.
Full Michael Jordan, them kids. Like, it was really, really... An MVP that gets on the mic and goes, hey, we did not... Bobby Lashley, Gage came to him from behind. Gage jumped on his shoulders. How was he supposed to know this kid was underage? How? And then... So the cameras are... Lashley is leaving with the title, and Goldberg yells, "I will kill you!" And it's picked up on the mics really well, which means that this is going to probably be a rematch in Saudi Arabia. And as I just said, when you go to a WWE major show, you expect shenanigans. So we've all got to hope and pray to whatever Dark Lords that we do have, whether you worship Phoebe Bridgers or Gillian Anderson, pray to your deities that Goldberg will not take the title off of Lashley, and that this will move on to something else, because if it's a Survivor Series, Lashley Roman would be a pretty fun little match there, and nobody needs to see Goldberg versus Roman because that would mean, because Survivor Series is going to be in Brooklyn, people, and that's going to be sort of the same crowd that you get at SummerSlam. So if you want Goldberg to get booed and Roman Reigns to get cheered, which is not what they want, but will happen if they do that. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
But speaking of Roman, this finally brings us to the main event, arguably the main reason we really flew all the way to Vegas, and the reason this podcast exists. John Cena was about to hit the ring with Roman Reigns. The summer of Cena was all culminating to this.
The reason for the season of the hat on Mike's head. We went to almost get the full fit. We tried to get the full John Cena kit, but they didn't have the shirts in stock. Yeah, and without the shirt, you're not going to buy the armbands.
I literally bought this at the pop-up, the WWE pop-up at MGM Grand, like earlier that day. And great hat, super comfortable, love it. And I get to represent my boy, rising indie star and actor John Cena everywhere I go. But it was time for the main event, and right off the bat, one of the coolest things. So Cena's music hits first, place absolutely erupts as it should, and kind of a bittersweet moment because we see John Cena has this whole new has new gear, has a new logo, very Super Mario Brothers 3 inspired. You see the John Cena in the Mario font. You see he's wearing a new shirt with basically the cover of that game, but it's Cena instead of Mario. We would find out later on you could only get that merch as part of an NFT, which is just...
And it's like $1,000 or something, like $5,000. Like, it's absurdly priced for the marks out there with the money. And like, I really hope that whomever has spent that much, like, thank you for enabling a bad company to do bad things. I hope that you have other stocks at Tank. Like,
it's a bummer. I would have bought that shirt, no questions asked, on the way out.
Yeah,
but
I would have pre-ordered that from there. Like, the reason why I haven't bought the New Day, okay, we skipped over it, but there was a couple of weird little segments. One where Shinsuke Nakamura came to the ring, played by Rick Boogs. Rick Boogs. Yeah, Rick Boogs. There was no match. It was just like a weird little musical interlude. And there was also the Drip duo of Johnny Drip Drip and Mike, Mr. M-I-Z. And Austin Creed, aka Xavier Woods, sprayed them with a giant water gun backpack, and he was wearing an NWO style because he had a Razor Ramon hair gimmick. It was like a New Day Rocks NWO shirt that was really nice. I would have ordered that shirt if I could have bought that John Cena shirt along with it. But something about the NFT shit and the fact that, like, I know the price is going to be higher than it should. Like, and I sort of want to just wait for the sale, if the sales will happen eventually. And I already
Mhm.
supported Austin Creed by buying not one but two decks of the Up Up Down Down Uno set that just came out. Like I
Yeah,
like it's
but
so we
yeah,
couldn't buy this shirt. It's annoying. Back to the match, Mike, because Roman Reigns' gospel practically hits. The heavens open. It's almost like Sephiroth is showing up to destroy Tifa. I mean, Aerith.
I loved it. And I love. I mean, it's been out for a while, but hearing his new theme in person, I think it's so fitting for his new persona. It's so menacing and yeah, so much more intimidating than the Shield theme we've been hearing for like 9 years. So
And this was
I
your
shout out
first
to
time
his
seeing.
new music.
This was your first time seeing the Big Dog live.
Yes, it was. First time seeing both of them live,
Yeah,
but yeah, it was big deal on both fronts. And yeah, I would say I mean I think this match really delivered. It gave me exactly what I wanted. You know, this was to tie everything back to Cena files and just John Cena as a performer. I think this was a great match in terms of storytelling because the build to this match, John Cena's whole shtick was like, I know I'm not better than you. I know I can't kick your ass. All I need to do is pin you. So from the beginning, he kept going for surprise roll ups, and that was like a key theme of the night. It's like, if I could just sneak in a pin, that's all I need. And they really kept that theme going strong. And then obviously, things heated up later on. We got some actual really great wrestling. But this was a match, and I'm really glad I rewatched it on Peacock because so much of what makes these two guys great are just the little things, their mannerisms, the way they talk, and seeing John like and Henry. I want you've been watching John Cena much longer than I have. Is it fair to say that he's in WWE the way he presents himself in WWE these days? He's a little looser, a little more fun, a little more
Oh,
himself. Yeah.
there's we've had conversations recently with people about how like some people have a hard time hiding what they're feeling. You cannot, you know that John Cena is wrestling this match and having the time of his life, and he
Mm-hmm.
sort of does it in everything. He's
Mm-hmm.
accused of being a little bit too loud with his move calling, but like he did his own ooh ah moment, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just like it just stuff like that. His shtick is especially layered thickly this past match. Um, he had an avalanche AA that like you might have thought could have been it, except if you had been following on television. Because this is the thing that I didn't know going into the match because I hadn't watched
Mm-hmm.
SmackDown. Roman said on SmackDown that if he loses, he would leave the WWE,
Yeah, and
which is
that's
basically your
important.
big
Yeah.
spoiler alert that he's not losing that title.
That's important to bring up because yeah, even before that, I think we all knew Roman was going to keep the title because this to me felt like John Cena making a limited comeback. It made sense. Suicide Squad just came out. There's some good synergy there. It's a feel good moment for the fans. Have Cena come back for a few weeks, have a great SummerSlam match, and then go do what he has to do. But but it really speaks to how great these performers are and just like the magic of wrestling, especially live, because there were those moments where in those few seconds, I believed that John Cena was going to get that 1, 2, 3. As Henry said, the top rope attitude adjustment. There were a few others where it's like, wow, I got out of my seat and
Yeah,
was counting 1, 2, 3 along with the crowd. And again, they're just like the little things, like rewatching it yesterday, back to Cena just having the time of his life when he hit the AA through the table, and on TV you could see he made it took him a second for it to set in, and he made this shocked expression like, "Oh my god, I did that!" And then he rolls Roman back in the ring for the pin.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, it was just so many little things like that. Roman. One of the best things about this new Roman Reigns is he talks to the camera a lot, and he had this really terrifying monologue where he was like, "Hey, Hollywood, is this your boy? Like, you thought you could just send him back to WWE? Like, no, he's yours. WWE doesn't need him anymore." And so many great little, again, this is a film podcast. We are professional film critics, and I think these guys showed a lot of great, just little nuance in their performances.
Yes, Hobbs and Shaw's Joe Anoa'i really kicked some butt here. Um, and interesting note from the start of the match, from before everybody walks out, which plays into what happens later, is that when they're entering, it's Roman Reigns, accompanied by Paul Heyman, and behind him, his cousins, the Usos. At one point, Paul Heyman walks up to Roman, and Roman nods his head and maybe says something, but maybe doesn't to Paul. And then after he does that, Paul walks over to the Usos and just basically says, "It's time to go to the back." And they leave them out there. And in that moment, Pat McAfee, a living legend who is knocked down right now with COVID-19, get well soon, King.
Yeah, well
Um,
soon.
He said the tribal chief just told his advisor to let the SmackDown Tag Team Champions know they are not needed. Their services are appreciated, but not needed. Because on Thursday night, on Friday Night SmackDown the next week, they're like, "Why'd you send us to the back, Paul?" And Paul says, "No, Roman sent you to the back." Because after that match goes off, basically the greatest, like, there's the meme of a wild John Cena appears. It's not real. It's too real and visceral almost to be a meme. We got the klaxons from above, at the warning that hell is about to unleash, that Diablo is coming to life, and Brock Lesnar is in the building, returning to the WWE after a long, basically, I think he appeared at the first pandemic WrestleMania to drop the belt to, where is he now? Adam Scher. No, wasn't it? Yeah, Drew McIntyre
Brock lost to Drew. Pandemic WrestleMania was Drew versus Brock, I believe, and Drew beat him in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, you're right. I thought, but so who wasn't that supposed to be Strowman originally in that match, and he dropped out or something? Like,
it was Strowman versus Goldberg. That weekend.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, so yeah, we haven't seen Brock Lesnar since the start of the pandemic, and because he had to drop the belt to Drew. And now he is back, and he has a top knot. He has a beard. He is looking like Dean Ambrose swallowed every steroid available and is the winner of, like, Dean Ambrose is here, and he is the winner of the big, thick, hunky baby contest from I Think You Should Leave Season 1, Episode 1.
He definitely is a big buff boy, looking like a straight up farmer. But yeah, that was a really awesome pop to end the night. After, of course, obviously Roman got the 1, 2, 3 after a very good match, very fun match, and Brock and they did what should have happened between Becky and Bianca, and Brock and Roman just had a stare down, just had a really tense few minute stare down. There's the added drama of Paul Heyman being there because
looking like he's seen a ghost.
Yeah, because obviously that was, he was a Heyman guy. So what's Paul Heyman going to do now when his two boys are back?
We saw this for years play out, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, and the matches were often not that good, and they were like, because WWE wasn't pulling the trigger on Roman, and it was like, it's funny, like, people used to dread another Lesnar-Roman match. But now that Roman is the tribal chief, and Lesnar is the beer, I think Ross Tweddle has the line "Bork the Viking," for how he's like this new Lesnar and this new Roman, and the Heyman dynamic is such a fresh remix of what we've already had in the past, and it's so much more entertaining. And like, we're gonna have babyface Brock. This is gonna be so much. I think he was high-fiving people in the crowd on his way to the ring.
Presumably with no Heyman in his corner, so he's gonna have to do the talking. It's gonna be very interesting.
Unless he finds a new manager. I don't even know.
Yeah, he doesn't. Like, he doesn't have to.
Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville could do all the the perfunctory storyline talking, but no, they used to give Rock the mic back in his early days, and there's that. I don't know if you've ever seen this. You ever seen when Brock Lesnar and Heath Slater once interacted?
No.
I don't care about your kids. Was something that Lesnar said to Slater, and it was like, and F5. It's like Lesnar has something. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He can be if he's a bad guy, but like if he is the unleashed and unglued, backwoodsman that he is, I
love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Give me babyface cabin Brock. I'll take it.
Keep the haircut. Keep keep all that look. That look that he showed up with at Mania should be what he wrestles in. And then he shows up. Roman leaves. Heyman looks like he's seen a ghost. The cameras go off. At that point, we're like, okay, let's find the bathroom. But then we hear some bumping. Because it turned out Lesnar wasn't done. He had to murder John Cena to send him back to his home planet. Because Cena won't be on WWE programming until a dark match at Madison Square Garden, where we will see him.
Yeah, so just to send the fans home happy, we I think Brock hit Cena with a couple F5s or a couple suplexes. So that's what we heard the hubbub of that. We watched the footage after, but still, all things considered, had a really good time at SummerSlam. A lot of weird things happened, both in and both in the programming and in the arena. But even with all that, definitely glad we went. It was cool seeing such a big pay-per-view in person, especially after just not seeing live wrestling for so long. And yeah, that was more or less the trip. I mean, we were there a bit longer. Um,
Like, watch
you
Takeover.
know,
We watched Takeover, and Takeover was a fucking blast. Like,
that was really good. If you guys haven't seen Takeover 36 and you have Peacock, watch that. Yeah, Samoa Joe winning the NXT title again. Good capstone to the whole weekend.
Karrion Kross
Um,
getting murdered by the crowd at Full Sail before he would get murdered by the internet
but
on Raw.
yes. Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, it was just this to wrap everything up. I thought it was a really great trip. Um, yeah, there were some things that were not so great about it that we would
I'll
talk
give a
about.
5
But
knuckle shuffles out of 5. Like,
the
honestly,
trip,
this was
yeah, yeah,
everything. This was no. I mean, I can't do that. Bianca.
I give it a solid 4.5 if we're judging the trip. If we're judging, if
Yeah.
we're judging Cena versus
How much of a
Reigns,
fraction of the night, like, of the whole, like, okay, let's say Thursday night to Saturday night is the window that we're looking at.
mhm,
Allegiant Stadium
that
going tits up and Bianca getting screwed. I feel
in
like
the
that's a
grand scheme
star
of
out of
things,
5. I feel like that's 1 star. Like, those were such.
yeah, in the grand scheme of things, we had a great
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
Great shows all around. I'd give the whole experience a full 5 knuckle shuffle. I'd probably give Cena versus Reigns maybe a 4, maybe a 4.5. But it was the match I expected. I was very entertained and very just thrilled to, get to see those dudes in person. So
Getting to
yeah,
enjoy the Punk return with random people online at GCW,
yeah,
like getting to
great
meet people in
experience.
person. Like, I got to see
Yeah, great.
Sarah Bastion for the first time, and Xenia, and like a bunch of other people. Like, it was a good time had by all. And as you might have seen on social, not everything is perfect.
Yeah,
Everything, get your tests, get your
yeah.
vaccines,
True.
wear
Be
masks.
very yes. Be guys. COVID is still a thing.
If
Get your shots. Wear your masks because traveling is still a risk.
I am going to be hanging out with you in person, and I find out you were not vaccinated, and I'm hanging out with you, yeah, I'm deleting your number off my phone and banning you on all social media. Like,
Yeah.
no,
Be careful.
you will. It's a 1 count for that. It is a 1
Yeah.
count. I don't need.
Yeah.
I can love you or leave you.
There's still a lot of COVID out there, so everybody, please do your part. Be careful. But
Test up.
yeah, I don't. Even with all that,
Yeah.
it was great to travel. It was great to spend the weekend with you, Henry. I'm very much looking forward to how much wrestling we have coming up this fall, and maybe we'll do another B-sides to talk about some of that. But
Yeah, you'll see
really
us
really
at
good.
GCW emo fight. You'll see us at GCW gets lost a lot. All
Pretty
sorts of
much, if
things.
every New York wrestling show coming up, we're probably going to be there. So
Grand Slam
definitely
Dynamite. Like,
say hi. Just keep your masks on, and
yeah,
we'll
no.
do fist bumps. But but
I
we'll
I go Cassius Ono style,
yeah,
or I go
no
Chris Hero
elbows.
style with the death by elbow. Like,
Yeah, I've been doing. I want to start normalizing like a chest chop as a hello, but like full
okay,
contact.
Walter.
Yeah, I want to look like Ilya Dragunov at the end of every night. But as long as we're not having too much contact, we're good. But yeah, that was our Vegas adventure for you guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Like Henry said earlier, we will be back next weekend to talk Vacation Friends, the new straight to Hulu movie. So guys, please watch it, get caught up so you can listen to our thoughts and join the conversation with us. That's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, I think that'll probably be it for us for a while. We might come back for a few B-sides here and there. We of course have Peacemaker in I think January. So we'll have a bit of a break, which is good. We'll have time to just
Yeah,
see some wrestling
we're not here
and
for a
do other
long
things.
time. We're here for a good time.
Yes, exactly. So, but yeah, like I said, we will be back next week for Vacation Friends. So it's on Hulu. If you have Hulu, check that out, and we can talk about it together in about a week's time.
And with that note, you can stream him, and you can stream SummerSlam, and you probably should if you enjoy the pro wrestling, or if you just want to see what we were talking about. Maybe Peacock has a free trial. I don't know. It's the weekend. I'm off the clock. Have a good one. Stay safe and be well, and love each other. Bye.